Hey everyone, alright, I'm back from the York show. I'm going to do just a short intro about how I even, my history with York. I've been doing trains since I was probably 4 years old, and for, I guess from when I was 24 to about 40, I used to do, as a side job, used to do all the repairs for a train store that used to be down in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And that whole time, so this is the early 80s, 90s, I was always told, oh, York is the place to go. It's always been the big train show. Back in those days, I didn't have any money to be flying up to Pennsylvania to go to this big show, but that was the end-all be-all. Everybody always talked about York. So finally, it was 3 years ago, I said, okay, I'm going to join the TCA finally, and I'm going to get up there to York. And so that was my plan. And so I signed up for the TCA, get all ready for the York show, and then COVID hits, and they didn't have the show for 2 years. I had already bought my tickets, held my tickets for 2 years, and finally got to go to my first York show last October. And I just went to my second one for April, to see if there was a difference between the October and the April. Now, obviously, I would think that the October show, because of the COVID still kind of going on and some hesitancy, I didn't know how that show was going to be. And first time at York, it was just overwhelming. I mean, it literally took a full 5 hours if you pushed it just to walk through to see everything, but really didn't leave you much time to go back if you wanted to find somebody else that was, if you wanted to go back and purchase something. So I go to the April show, and this show was, there was one building smaller, but I did not notice, I just seemed a lot tighter and a lot more crowded this year. This year had more, I didn't go there with anything in mind that I wanted, and this show was a lot more fun because I took my time, and I still spent the whole 5 hours just going through once. And in that time, I came across a couple of things that I really thought was interesting, and I picked up. A little sidebar that I think is funny is last October, my first show, I went through one hall, didn't buy anything. And my first purchase, again, I'm from Florida. First purchase I make is from one of the TCA guys in Florida. He recognized my name and said, "What are you doing up here?" And that was funny because I go all the way up to Pennsylvania to buy something from a guy in Florida. And of course, now here I am at my second show, and I'm going through, and halfway through the first hall, I found one of the post-war fire cars, and I purchased that. And of course, where's that guy from? He's from Jupiter, Florida. So I go to York 2 times. The first 2 things I buy are from other Floridians. So it's still a small world, but York is very interesting, and I'll go ahead now and post the rest of the video and what I picked up and what I saw when I was there. Okay, I'm here early. See how this year's hunt goes. I'm not really here to find anything in particular, but walking around. Show starts in about an hour. Also, for those of you who've never been to York, there was a little map of the layout. The oval right here, that's actually a track field, so that's how big it is. And each of the squares of the different halls, they're all designated by colors. And so these are not small buildings, and I have some pictures I'll post that you've already seen or will see. So when I went to York this year, the first thing I bought was the fire car. So the only thing it needs is the band, because when it moves, that is supposed to spin and the fireman goes back and forth. So I have those on order, and I needed them anyway because I also have a radar car that needed some attention. So one thing about York is everybody says, oh, you'll always be able to find whatever you want. What I wanted to start collecting are cars from the 60s and 70s that Lionel put out. So they're MPC cars, and they all have, for back in that day, would have been the logos that you would have seen in the TV commercials from the 70s. So the first one that I purchased before York was the Gerber baby car, and I knew they made them, but they're also hard to find because I didn't know what the numbers were. And I went through the whole show and actually did not. I saw one Fritos car, but I didn't want to just buy one because I'm trying to at least start off a theme here. And if I couldn't find them at York, where was I going to find them? So I get to the last, literally the last row of vendors at late in the day, and one of the vendors had just bought a collection and had 5 of the cars I wanted, so I was able to purchase them. So I got the Hills Brothers coffee box car, the Ruffles potato chip car, the Fritos car, the Bazooka bubblegum car, the Lipton tea car, and the Jolly Green Giant car. So that got me on my way. One car I want, hard to find. I didn't want to spend, it was $100. I wasn't going to spend $100 for a box car, but one of the clubs in the 70s had a Charlie Chips box car, and it looked pretty good, but I let that pass. So the other thing that was going on is there were a lot of Blue Comet sets for standard and O gauge, and that's on my bucket list right now to obtain one of those, but I just can't bring myself to spend that kind of money for something like that. So what I found though, and I have a lot of American Flyer that I'm going to start restoring, and I'll make videos of that process. So, but I do not have an O gauge American Flyer engine. So I found this O gauge engine from American Flyer with their version of Blue Comet cars. So it's a 2233X engine with, and it's pre-war, so this stuff is all 32 to 34, and it has the Golden State blue box car, the combine car, a Pullman car, and the observation car. They're pretty good shape. I don't think I'm going to do any restoration on them. I might do something with the engine though. The tender is in much better shape, but it runs very good. And here, I'll get that going around the track now. So, other things that I picked up recently, this was not from York, but for some weird reason I'm trying to collect one of all these bumpers. So, you know, you have your standard post-war bumper there. These were the pre-war bumpers, black. Then when they get a little rarer, you have the yellow one. So I went and I found one of the yellow ones. And then for the novelty side, I actually found 4 of these. So you can see they're down here, those 4 boxes. There's again Kobler. Kobler was their history. They were two guys that were an authorized service center for Lionel, and they were fixing stuff, but they decided to take it upon themselves and they started copying Lionel's product line. So they made their own version using the same molds, but everything Kobler made was plastic. So it's a plastic clip-on bumper by the Kobler company. Yeah, I don't really know what the value is, but at the end of the day, it's an oddity. They had a cease and desist issue from Lionel, which put them out of business, and I guess they lost their service status also. Also found a 88 rheostat with its box. So things that are coming or working on, I think at this point the next stuff is going to be all restoration stuff. I'm going to start some sandblasting on a whole bunch of really bad shape standard gauge and go from there. Oh, here's something else. You know, the standard gauge set up there, there's one of the station dump cars. I picked that up, and I don't know what company made it, but that was also a hand truck that came with those bags on that side. So that was my York update, and I'll get this posted once I compile it with some pictures. And again, thanks for your interest. Yeah, I moved that to a more visible track. So here's that American Flyer set again.